Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
Very special edition because John Johnson is back in the studio.
Back in the house.
Yeah, so, I mean, we did Zoom for a couple weeks, and that was interesting. A little bit more editing work.
I was a little more work on your part, but I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, John. So let's not get all sappy for the listeners.
No, because we're also starting Celebration Month. We're the start of our celebration of Black History Month.
Yes.
And we've got some really cool ones this month. I'm excited to do.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. This is our third Black History Month, which is crazy thinking we've done this for 2 years already.
Yeah.
And this is our third year going now. So, but we're starting with a character we've already visited for Black History Month, but we did the only title we could find at the time, which we did Static is the character, and then we did the I think the title of the trade was called The Birth of the Cool.
But yeah, Birth of the Cool.
So we did that title because it was the only one available at the time. And since then, I think DC heard our podcast.
Yeah, they did.
And are complaining about how Milestone didn't get any love from that, no reprinting or anything. So we single-handedly, I like to take credit for it. We single-handedly got DC to reprint all these books, release all these books from Milestone. So now there's a Milestone compendium that just came out or is about to come out. That is like volume 1. So it's collecting, I think, 1,300 pages of Milestone comics.
Oh, wow.
And then there's going to be another volume, I think, too. And then that collects Icon, which we've done as well.
Oh, yeah.
That collects Static. That collects Blood Syndicate. And I think there's another one I can't think of off the top of my head. But yeah, like there's just collecting all these different titles that were from Black creators in the 90s that they finally got. I don't know if there was like a rights issue. I think there was a rights issue.
It must have
what
been.
was going on for real. It wasn't because they heard us, but I like to think that just because we pushed them and then magically it happened. So, but yeah, so this is the actual origin, because the one we read was just like the like first release after he came back or whatever. So this is actually the original number 1 through 4 of Static. And the trade is called Trial by Fire. And yeah, I mean, this is great. It's by Dwayne McDuffie there's 2 writers actually, Dwayne McDuffie and Robert L. Washington III. And then the artist is John Paul Leon, who recently passed actually in the last year now. I think over the summer. So, but this is like some of his not earlier work, but like his kind of middle of his career, I believe. So, because I've seen a lot of his stuff later, and it looks differently. It looks more like the stuff from the trade that we read before, The Birth of the Cool. So that's like his traditional looking stuff. This looked a little bit different. I don't know if it was because of the colorist or the inker or whatever might have been different, but it definitely had a different feel, I thought. But it was still good, and I still liked the art a lot. So anyway, let's get into this book. We start off in Dakota City, which is the fictional town that these people live in all the books, I believe. And we start off at this place called the Cods Arcade, because, 90s.
Now he's got to have that bit cool arcade.
Yep. And I think this is from 93, I believe, is when this came out. So fairly early. I thought it was like 96 when those came out, but I guess it was earlier than I thought. But then we start off with the first introduction the first main character we get introduced to is Frida Gorin. And she is going into the arcade, and she gets immediately hassled by a gang. And they're called the 5 Alarm Crew. And they all wear yellow jackets.
These horrible yellow, like rain-looking jackets.
Yes. I just part of this was like very charming because it's so 90s.
Oh, yeah, it's so 90s.
I love just the way they look. You just imagine what they're listening to on their boom boxes and stuff, and just like, oh yeah, I can understand. I can like picture exactly what they're hearing and all that. So I really appreciated the style of what everybody's wearing and everything too. But yeah, so she starts getting hassled by the main guy, and the main guy's name is, what is it? It's Biz Money B.
Biz Money B.
Biz Money B. He starts hassling her, and right as he starts to put his mitts on her, Static comes into the arcade and is like, "How about you unhand her?" Or whatever. He says he starts making fun of the way that Biz is hitting on the girl. So it's funny because he's got like, this is a trademark of the character of Static, but he's very Spider-Man-esque in the way he talks to people.
He's very quippy.
He's quips. He's got this quips. So he bursts in and he's like, "I hate to ask this of such a obviously suave and debonair group of individuals, but has anyone ever sat down with you guys and discussed dating etiquette? Because the way that they're talking to her is just so like rude, right?"
Yeah.
And then they're like grabbing on her and shit. And they're like, "Holy shit, it's Static."
I did love the way he like floats in on his. He's got the little panel thing.
Yeah. So right away, they don't even like introduce him yet. His actual introduction is in the second, like, of his powers and how he got it. So he's right away just thrown at us like this is an existing hero. So we don't get like the origin story in issue 1, which is kind of cool and like different than what Marvel or whatever would normally do, because this is actually published by DC, I should say, as well.
Yeah.
So it was kind of aside. And at the time, DC had like Vertigo, which was like the mature thing, and they were into splintering off into different imprints, is what they called them, so that they could publish things they wouldn't normally publish under their name, DC or whatever. So this was Milestone Comics. And like we're saying, Static bursts in there. He starts, staticizing the air or whatever, electrocuting everything around. But just kind of like, I don't know if it actually like does anything to stuff. Like it's hitting the pinball machines and all the arcade.
I just
devices.
imagine ding 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 ding. The machine's going off.
I don't know if he's just like feeding off it or if it's actually like affecting the mechanisms inside or whatever. Yeah. But he's got like a skin tight black leotard on and with like a lightning bolt that goes through the front of it. And he always wear like a baseball cap too. So he looks pretty cool. I like his design for his comic.
Honestly, because I remember watching the cartoon as well, and I totally like this design for Static better. I like this initial.
This suit better than the big jacket.
The big jacket
and the dreadlocks. And stuff. Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. It's just it's unique. I like this one.
Yeah, it's more streamlined for sure. Like, as compared. But anyway, so he proceeds to beat the shit out of these guys. And one of them we see also has powers. And like he gets like fire powers, or I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what he does. Something later on that I'm like, wait, what did he do? Or like, how do his powers work? But anyway, the kid Biz Money B, he's the leader, and he has powers as well. And they're, like I said, they're fire powers, so he can control fire. Kind of like Pyro from the X-Men or something like that.
Yeah, it kind of does remind me of.
But he can like run fast and shit too. So like it's like he kind of puts if he pushes himself with the hot air or some shit, it makes him go faster. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. All right, so I didn't. But yeah, so he beats them up and humiliates them in front of everybody. And she, like the girl, what was her name again?
Frida.
Frida, that's right. She's like, "Oh my god, thank you," and he's like, "Oh, let me help you out, precious Frida." And she's like, "Hey, like, we don't know each other," but it turns out they actually do know each other because later on we find out this is a boy named Virgil Hawkins, and he's a teenager that goes to high school, and he actually goes to high school with Frida, and actually goes to high school with Biz and stuff too, because that's his bully as the regular kid he is as Virgil, and so he goes home, and we see like their little home life. He's got a sister and a mom. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he have a father in the other trade we read? He had a dad. I know.
Yeah, I thought he did.
So in this, maybe she gets married or something, like remarried, or starts dating a guy in this, and then they just jump to them being married in the next one. But in this, it's just the mom is a single mom, it looks like, and he's got a sister, and it's him. So
because they make it pretty, because she's like they're kind of treading on thin ice or thin water, and they're like, "Hey, we need you to help with the income in this."
Yeah, like he has to have a job to help them survive as a family.
Yeah,
and so, and then they also make fun of like he's coming into the house, and she's like, "Where have you been?" And he's like, "Don't worry about it. I was like hanging out at the arcade or whatever." And the sister's like, "Oh, were you hanging out with Miss Vanilla 93? Because Frida's white." And so like he's like, "Hey, don't talk about her like that," or whatever. He's got like a really big crush on Frida, which is actually a pretty big plot point in this storyline.
Yeah.
Which I felt for at the end of it. I was like, I've
do.
been there, Virgil. but yeah, so we see like the little dynamic between the mom, who's like stern but loving. You get the little sister who's just a brat and always wants to like tease him and like make fun of him. And he, even though he's the older brother, is like he's like a nerd, and he's also kind of, he's not really like assertive or anything against his sister or things like that. He's not like chasing her around because she made fun of him or like yelling at her or anything like that. He's kind of like whatever, and then it goes upstairs. And did you have any thing to add to the beginning when they?
No, I did like that he's coming home and because he's already been talking with Frida, like they're friends. So like he's like, oh, I bet she's gonna call me. And I did like that he was like trying to time it, like getting out of his suit, getting home, being like, hey mom, hey sis, okay, quit talking, like because the sister's messing with him, and mom's like, where you been? And he's like, oh yeah, okay, trying to get away with him and he's still like counting mentally in his head, like waiting for, and like. It's just funny. He timed it like perfect for the phone to ring, and he picks up and he's like, "Hey, Frida."
Yeah, like literally when him and Frida stop talking when he's static, from that moment he goes like 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, and just by the time he's at his house while his mom's talking to him, he's like 99, 1,000, 100, 1,000. Like so he's like trying to get to there before she gets home to make a phone call to talk to her friend Virgil, who she doesn't know is static because that's his secret identity. And so he does pick up the phone, and this was great. This little segment wouldn't be possible now because we have cell phones. So this whole like tension and like just remembering, oh yeah, you used to like call your friends after school and shit and talk on the phone for hours, and then no one else could use the phone all night or the internet or anything. So it was just a fun time.
Before caller ID and stuff, you didn't know who was calling.
Yeah,
right?
Didn't even know who was calling.
Yeah.
So this just was like really a fun like throwback comic too for me, just because I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like, I remember in high school when I used to call the girls that I liked and be like, "What you doing?" and then try to like talk to them and shit. So they get like a fun little friendship going on. Obviously, he's very much into her romantically, and she is always like, "You're a great friend, Virgil," and we can go do friend hangouts.
Yeah, I love calling and talking to you as a friend.
My best friend. And so then the next day at school, he meets up with his friends. That's where we kind of see like their friendship together, like as far as the whole group. And there's a guy that hangs out with them. I think he's like a friend that's in their group, right?
Yeah.
Named Larry. So Larry is a tougher gentleman, we'll say. He's more streetwise and more into that side of things, into the negative elements of the street, we'll say. I don't think he's actually in a gang or anything.
No, but he definitely comes off as a little rougher.
He definitely does. And so their classes start, they all go to their class, and right away when they sit down, and this was crazy. Like I was like, really? No, like this could happen. I guess, this could happen in the 90s.
In the 90s, yeah.
But literally this gang, this Yellow Jacket 5 Alarm gang or whatever, they come into the class, kick the door open, and they're just like, "Hey, what's up?" Like to the teacher, and she's like, "Sit down or get out of here," or whatever. And one of the guys like literally jumps up on a desk and like grabs his junk and is like, "Hey, Cheech, you want to check this for a deadly weapon or whatever?" And then Money, or what's the name? Biz Money,
yeah,
actually takes out a gun.
Yeah, because one of the girls is like, "Hey, it's the teachers like, hey, like we're trying to have class."
I was the teacher looks like a very young teacher.
She does, yeah.
She was a first year right here. She gets slapped in the face by that kid who said, "Want to check this for weapons," and grabbed himself. And then, it's not Biz Money that has a gun. It's the guy that said that, and then is held there as the kid that said that puts a gun to her head in the class, and then
just in front of the class.
Yeah, and of course Larry had told Virgil earlier, like, "Hey man, you need to stand up for yourself against those kids or whatever that are fucking with you," and so it's already on Larry's mind, like this is happening to all his friends, Frida included, and he's sitting there, he's like, "Hey Virgil, like when this guy does that, like let's jump him," and then he turns to Virgil's seat and Virgil's gone. He's like, "What the hell?" So Virgil jumped out the window and then put on his static costume, or took off his clothes to reveal
it under.
We don't know. It was behind a bush that he did that. And he he normally flies around on like I think it's like a sewer grate or whatever, like a
it looks like a sewer cover, or like one of those old trash can lids.
Yeah, either one of those. Something. But basically, because he's electric, magnetism is part of electricity. So like he can just use that to repel him from the earth or whatever. So he can actually use metal to fly around. So he gets a trash can and he flies.
But it's the whole trash can.
Yeah, the whole trash can. And he gets a trash can. He literally has to ride a trash can around town. And he goes to the playground right next to the school where Biz Money has taken Frida down to the playground and met with all the rest of the gang members there. And they're like talking about what they're going to do. And when they're talking about that, like the gang member, the head guy, Biz Money, reveals that, you know, he can move really fast. He like, you know, goes really quickly up to her face and scares the shit out of her. And he basically is like, you know, you're connected to static. Like I figured if I, you know, threaten to hurt you, static will come. So that's why we're doing this basically.
Yeah.
And she's like, she doesn't give a fuck. She's like, well, you know, if you want me so bad, then take this or whatever. And she flips him off and everything. She's pretty brave for someone who just saw a superpowered being like really quickly run at her on fire.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as she's I guess he's like kind of making it look like he's gonna kill her and showing her he's showing her all his powers. And all of a sudden, Static Shock shows, or not Static Shock, Static shows up, because later on, and he has a TV show called Static Shock. So
yeah,
but Static shows up on the trash can, which is funny, and they kind of have another showdown where you think Static's doing fine because the guy's throwing like, it's funny because he's kind of like, it's like Gambit, but with like a power you can see before he does it. So like he throws money, like change, at Static, but it's like hot and it's on fire. So it's kind of like the cards that Gambit throws or whatever that are energized. But it doesn't really do anything at first. And then he's able to get the best of Virgil. And this was a part that I was kind of confused on, actually. Virgil's doing fine. And he wraps like chains around him and everything, but the guy is able to burst out of the chains with the fire. And then he punches the shit out of Static, and I was just kind of like, why did Static let him do that? Or was it just so fast?
I feel like it was so fast because it looks like on the page like there's a lot of punches.
Yeah, that's true. It's like so that must be it. I just didn't read it right the first time because it kind of, he's just talking to him, and I think maybe he was saying you should have killed me, not just talked to me.
Yeah, and
then he breaks out of the chains and then punches him like 20 times. But then Biz Money doesn't do anything to him other than tell him, like, you know, that's right. Like, you stay down.
You think you're tough, you're not tough. See? I'm Biz Money.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, he doesn't kill him or anything. And he's like, and you, I'll be back for you later, girl, or whatever. So, like, that's like the first intro to this character. He's all beat up, and the first thing that like is the big reveal at the end of this issue is Frida's there. She goes to like save Static or like pick him up or whatever. And this is like every Batman comic that has this never does this. Yeah. So it was really interesting to actually see it in the first issue. Is she pulls back his mask like a terrible person who's helping a superhero.
Yeah.
And reveals it's Virgil. She's like, oh my God, Virgil. And that's like the last panel. So I thought that was like an interesting first issue to have.
Yeah, to have the main love interest find out like right away.
Right away, yeah. There's no tension like you know, Spider-Man. The tension's always like, oh, will she find out? Blah blah blah. You know, like Aunt May's gonna find out, or you know, one of the love interests, whether it be Felicia Harding or any of the other people. So yeah, it's just like it's so rare for this. I did not expect it at all. But it was good. It was like a change of pace. This felt new even today. Just like the way that this is written is not, it felt fresh today. Like, 'cause this isn't like a trope still or anything. People generally don't write like this still. So it was kind of like, oh, this is cool. This is fun. So we start the next issue, and the next issue is called it just says the shocking origin of static on the cover, and that's what we're talking about. Like this one is not. The first issue was not the origin. This one is, which is pretty unique for a superhero character. And so he starts off just like kind of where we left off, except they're in a room now. They've moved from the playground into Frida's room. And she's like, I don't get it, Virgil. Like, how come, like, how are you doing this or whatever? What happened? And he basically breaks down to her, like, how he became static and, like, how he ended up here. One thing that's cool is, like, I guess he likes her a lot, so maybe he's not weirded out by like he just starts taking off his suit at least down to his butt or whatever, to his hips, and so like maybe he's like confident in his body, so he's just like check this shit out. Like
I could have even as a hero, I'd be like, I'm gonna go on this turn over here.
I gotta go in the bathroom and change or whatever. So yeah, like he just lets her like. Put iodine on him and like touch his body and stuff. It's like, yeah, my biceps really hurt too, and my pants are chafing me. So yeah. Anyway, he tells her the origin of himself, so of him as static. So basically, what was happening is once again he's getting hassled by Biz Money,
and it's the day that they met. So I mean, that's also like,
is it the day that?
Yeah, it's the day that he and Frida met. So
that's right. That was like the whole crux is like it was actually the day that I met you, and she's like, oh really? Like tell me what happened or whatever, and refresh my memory or whatever. So we get like how they met, and we see he gets hassled by Biz Money and Larry, of all the people. I don't know if this is the first day he met Larry either, though. Is it?
I don't know.
They walk up together,
yeah,
like they're friends or something beforehand. So.
They don't. It's definitely the first day he met Frida. I can't say.
Okay, yeah, but anyway, he gets like kind of pushed around by Biz Money, and then Frida gets hit on by Biz Money, and then walks away, gets out of that situation, and that's like the first time he's like, holy shit, I'm in love with this girl, because she says, call you later, and that's all that. Just total, like, exactly what it's like for a boy to fall in love with a girl in high school. It's a girl looks at you, acknowledges your presence, and says something so flippant as, I'll call you later, or whatever, just not even in, like, a hinting tone of romance or anything, just, she talked to me.
She talked to me, and she said she's going to talk to me, just me.
Again, later on the phone. So, yeah, this was like, I've been there. I've definitely been in this situation where what he's talking about. So, I should also say there's definitely like racism, and there's definitely racism in the way that people talk to him and other people around. Like, Biz Money is a white guy that is in a gang, and he calls the black people in the school some mean names and stuff, some racist names. And then they also say some words that are not really politically correct nowadays. They're all by bad people usually, or even if they're not by bad people, they say them, and then someone goes like, hey, don't like, I'm not, don't say that or whatever. Not in like a don't say that word, but like that hurt my feelings kind of thing. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that or whatever. Yeah. So like, there's some definite interesting. It was like shocking to read it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, because they would never publish that shit nowadays or whatever. So I was surprised it was even in like full words on these pages.
Oh yeah,
I'm reading it digitally on Comixology, so I thought they would censor it just because they do that. Like they did it for X-Men. God Loves Man Kills.
Yeah,
but that was a white writer, so I get. Maybe that's why they don't do it for this one, because it's a black writer, so maybe it's
trying to get a point across.
Different context or whatever. I mean, he was trying to get a point across then too, but still like.
But yeah,
it's
right.
different
context,
different writer, different context. So, anyway, back to what was going on. So he gets beat up because he starts like looking at Frida. She's walking away, and Biz Money's like, what the fuck are you doing? That's my girl now.
Yeah. I just talked to her. Didn't you see that?
Didn't you see me harass her? I have chosen her to be my wife, or my next conquest, at least. So, yeah, he beats up Virgil, and Larry finds Virgil on the ground and is like, hey, man, if you need help with this guy, you let me know. I got a cap for you. And he cap like a gun. Like he puts his hands up in the image of a
finger gun way.
Yeah, the finger gun way is like, you need it, I'll give it for you. You got to stand up. This is funny. He gives the bully speech like, hey, don't let bullies push you around. You got to stand up to him. But by stand up, he literally means murder
kill him.
Yeah. You just got to murder him, and they'll stop bugging you. It's a very, very true statement.
Maybe he just meant shoot him in the arm, like just send a message.
I doubt it. I doubt it. Usually gangs still retaliate if you get shot in the arm.
That is true.
So I think he was literally like, murder him, and he won't bully you anymore.
Yeah, simple.
Problem solved. So anyway, he gives Virgil a gun and is like, hey, we have a plan. I got an idea. You should go to this thing tonight, which is, they don't really say what it is here, but I know what it is because we researched it a little bit for the last book that we read of Static. But basically, the police, I guess, put out like information to all the gangs, because there's been a lot of gang activity here, to say like, everybody meet at this area, like on these docks or whatever, and we're gonna like talk about a truce. Like all the gangs meet here.
Yeah.
So that's what happens, and Virgil is like, or the plan is for Virgil to go there because he knows all the gangs are gonna be there, and Virgil's got his gun now, so he can shoot Biz Money at this riot or whatever's gonna happen here.
Yep.
This gang meeting, and no one's gonna bat an eye because there's all these different gangs that are all hate each other, and the police are there. Something's going to happen at least, and so, and something does happen.
Yeah, and I mean, Larry's just like, hey, yeah, it's gonna be another dead gangbanger, so what does it matter? No cops, no, all these gangs, no worries.
Yeah, for real. So Virgil, like literally, he's got the gun in his hands. He goes to the bridge, like water area, and he's got Biz Money in his sights, and he just can't do it. He's like, come on, I can do it. And I like how they showed this, is they don't show Virgil. They show him like at first, like setting up to shoot him. And then you just see the like crosshairs of a gun, but it's all like shaky and shit. And then all of a sudden they steady and he goes like, I'm not a loser. And so you're like, holy shit, he's going to kill him. And then he puts the gun down. He's like, but I'm not a killer either, damn it. So like he can't do it. But, unluckily for him, the cops just start shooting tear gas into the crowd. I guess, well, it was after they say like a riot broke out, but they start using this gas. And the gas, we don't know yet in these issues. I'm sure it gets talked about later on, but the gas is...
it's an experimental mutagen.
Yes, exactly. And I don't know why they use it, but it doesn't turn everybody into mutants. It murders or like kills a lot of the people on this dock. There's like different reactions to it. So most people die, but some people turn into mutants. So one of those people was Static, because he's running away. He breathes in the gas, but he goes. Oh no, he doesn't go in the water, but he gets like down enough, and maybe he doesn't breathe it like as much. Maybe, I don't know. All the other people have like sores and lesions all over their hands and stuff. The ones that are dead. So it's pretty fucked up that happens. We see one person like turns into the brick wall behind her. Yeah. So like, or behind them. I think it's a trans character that does that. So, but there's definitely like people that like are going through the same thing he's going, because all of a sudden he's like, what the hell? Like, I have powers or whatever.
Yeah, he's like, he can feel the air or something in the air around him, basically.
Yes. And the person who turns into a brick is actually from Blood Syndicate. Yeah. There in that book. So this is like how all of the characters in the Dakotaverse, they call it.
Yeah, this is the official, the Big Bang moment.
Yeah, they call it the Big Bang. Yeah. And which works as multiple levels. Obviously, Big Bang because there was a Big Bang. And then also Big Bang like the creation. Yeah. So, and then the cops kind of start to chase him, and they have these big like mech suits, but he's able to like electrocute the suits and like shuts them down or whatever, and he gets away. And that's pretty much like the origin of his story. He uses a trash can lid to fly away, and I'm like, and it's like it's just coming natural. Like as he's wanting to go, the lid like attaches to his feet and it picks him up off the ground. He's not like, he didn't know that happened or whatever. Yeah. And then I like that he says, and so the legend was born. And she was like, really? He's like, well, not really. I did a lot of practicing. So in between now and then, I had to practice a lot.
Yeah, he embellished a little of how probably easily that went on that first time.
Oh, and I forgot to say in the last issue at the end of it, Biz Money challenged him to a fight. Like after he won him in that end of that fight, Biz Money was like, fuck you, and like I'm gonna beat you in front of everybody, and meet me here at like 5 today later or whatever.
Yeah.
So he gets his. It's not a trash can lid that he flies on right now. It's some other thing that he makes one later that's like concealable.
Yeah, that's cool. It does show the origin of him creating his little. Basically, it's like a glider, fold up glider. Like it fits in his back pocket, and but he can like flip it out like a fan, and then it becomes a complete circular disc for him to glide on.
Yeah, but for now, Frida is like, hey, like don't go. Like you don't have to go. He's just challenging you, and he's got all these powers, and you might not be able to beat him. I mean, even though you were winning last time until the end, now you know his power set, so you might be more prepared. But he might be, trying to egg you into a fight or whatever. So he's like, no, I'm going to go. And so she's like, my hero, the butthead or whatever. And so he goes to the park, and all these people, like the whole neighborhood is there. Everybody's like ready to watch him get beat by Biz Money. And Biz Money's sitting on what is that called? It's like the little spinny thing on a playground.
Oh, the
kids play on.
Yeah, it's
carousel or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of like a carousel.
It's carousel without the horses on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a manual carousel. But so the funny thing is Virgil's prepared, and this is kind of where we get to see that he is not just a quippy kid or like a streetwise kid. He's a really smart kid too, because he figures out how to beat this guy, like scientifically or whatever. Like, before the fight even starts, he gets some sheets of metal and like from the playground and wraps his Biz Money's arms and legs in the metal and like makes it so he can't move. And then he says, and this is something I will say I didn't fully understand when I read it, and I wasn't sure how he figured it out. But they're just supposed to be like, okay, he's smart and he figured it out. And but he says, so I was doing some thinking, and I says to myself, I like this. He said, the way he talks, it's like he's from a cartoon or something. He's like, so I says to myself, he says, how does this guy move so fast without getting burned? How does he do that crazy fire thing? And then it starts to add up. Maybe you saved up the heat, you make moving that fast, and burn it off by throwing fire. So maybe if you can't do one, you can't do the other. And since you sat still for the entire lecture, now you can't do anything. You can't like melt through this metal this time, because last time he had moved so fast during the initial fight that he had saved up all this like heat energy or whatever. So, and I also, like I said, I did not understand exactly what happened in that. I was just like, wait, so
no, I will say that when they show him going off on his powers, they don't make that entirely explicit known like how he's doing it. So.
Yeah, like I mean, if that was the case, couldn't you just move your legs or your hands really
move
fast?
Your head around real fast?
Yeah, and then like that energy is now fire energy.
Move your ankles or your wrists around real fast.
Exactly. Do some squats or something. I don't know. But yeah, so he's able to beat the guy pretty easily. I thought it was funny too that there's some people in the gang listening to a boombox, and then I guess because Static is electric, his powers or whatever, they start picking up what he's saying from far away, like on their boombox, and like he basically tells the guy, don't bother me, don't bother my friends, my cousin's friends, or anybody ever again. Got it? And then he's like, yes to who? Yes, Mr. Static. That's right. And so, it basically goes out to all the people watching that you don't fuck with Static. And then he comes back to Frida and he's like, hey,
so now that you know, I like that he is kind of like, so now that you know my secret identity and I liked you anyway, like, so now that you know I'm this cool badass, like, want to go on a date?
He doesn't say that. He goes, how about a little hero's reward? So he's looking to get a kiss.
That's right.
And then she's like, I like you. I like you, but I don't think of you like that. And he's like, but really? She's like, yeah, really. And he's like, okay, I guess so. Like, they don't really.
But then he's like, well, okay, well, maybe we'll negotiate further on a future date.
Yeah, he doesn't give up right away. And then she says, anything for a friend, which is like. She's just trying to
He
drive
is.
the nail.
He
You know,
is in that friend zone.
it's like, you got to understand, you are in the zone, the friend zone. And so, yeah, then we get an epilogue or another epilogue. It says prologue, but it's prologue to issue 3. So,
Yeah.
where we see someone in the darkness of a dark room.
Shadowy characters.
Yes, exactly. They're in some giant office with a giant glass window, and there's one guy saying, you know, you must get this this Static who defeated Biz Money, because that was my boy, and but he was beat by Static, so now maybe Static could be my guy or whatever. And the person who's like in that we can see looks pretty fucking creepy and weird looking. Looks like, I thought it was like a creature from the Black Lagoon or something, but it's actually like a tar monster, we find out later.
Yeah.
But his name's Tarmac. So
it's pretty. Hey, it's a pretty good. I like it.
I liked it too. I'm down. But yeah, this guy's like, yeah, boss, I'll totally get this guy for you. And so basically, he's like, if he can beat Tarmac, then I know he's ready to be on.
He's like, don't kill him, but test him.
Yeah. So, and if he's, you know, it says, if he's weak, take him. If he's strong, hire him. If he's a problem, smoke him. Not literally. I think smoke means kill.
Smoke means okay. So but it's only if he's going to be a problem.
Yes. So that is the end of issue 2.
And this next one, he is the kind of the main event. It's him versus this new villain, Tarface. That's kind of Tarmac. Pardon me. I say Tarface because right away we were talking about this before. It was like that. This feels like the most like superhero-esque villain for Static so far.
Yeah, like a Batman villain. Or something.
Yeah, it's like Clayface or like just one of those like.
One of the Clayfaces. It's not even the one from the TV show, but like one of the 4 or 5 Clayfaces there are.
It's very much like a C or D list villain, but but it's fun. Like it's what you want out of a comic fight.
Yeah. So we start off on this issue with Static doing some very heroic things, saving people from. I don't remember what it is that happened here. Does it say what it was? Just like a building collapse or something.
Yeah. No.
So I guess a building collapse or something happened. Maybe it was from, you know, an Icon comic or something that we didn't read, you know, for this, but maybe there was some crossover or something. I don't know. But basically, yeah, there's rubble and carnage happening as far as buildings collapsing, and Static's bringing, you know, concrete and stuff up because there's rebar in it. He can pull it up, and he's saving people, and so it's cool to see him like actually help out the neighborhood and all that.
Yeah.
And then we cut to him being at his job, I guess. So he's a dishwashing person or whatever. What is a dishwasher? I guess.
Yeah.
I was like, is there a name for it now that I don't know? But yeah, he works at a restaurant, and he was late, of course. And then also, this is a very Spider-Man thing, I will say, where he's always got to go or he's always got to be late because he's helping people. And so, someone calls him, and it's Frida, and she's saying like, something bad happened. You got to come to the arcade. Something. And then like it gets cut off, and he's like, I have to go. And she's like, oh, is your mom sick now? Because your dad was sick yesterday.
I do love this. Yeah, she goes on like this list of like, oh, this happened. What is it this time? And he says actually, and he's like, he puts it together like, no. He keeps his stories straight.
Yeah, she says, what, Virgil, is your sister sick? Not over that thing she picked up from your mother. That made her so bad sick that you had to leave last week. Did she get that from the father who was sick the week before? And then Virgil's like, no, that was a car accident. Remember? I had to go to the hospital. So he's actually keeping track of his lies nicely.
Yeah.
But anyway, he gets let go from that because, like he's not a dependable employee. But this is a problem because, you know, they need that money. And so he comes home, and the sister's there. And she's like, I'm going to tell mom. And like, she's being a little sister. So he is able to shut the phone down, all the phones down, and because these are like not cell phones. And I got confused because I thought he actually does this to the TV remote. I thought it was a cell phone. He charges the battery so that they'll shock her later. But then he also makes it so the phones don't work in the house.
Yeah, sister goes pick up phone. He's like, oh man, is that phone still dead? That sucks.
That sucks. And then then he's like, game, set, match. Like, and then you hear like because she gets like zapped by the remote as he's walking up the stairs. But yeah, so the mom doesn't know that he got fired yet, and then he goes to school the next day, and meets with everybody. And we find out what happened. Basically, what happened was there's this guy named Tarmac that attacked the arcade, trying to get, Static out of the woodwork or whatever, trying to get him out. Then while they're talking in the hallway, we hear like some stuff banging around and shit outside, and it turns out that Tarmac has actually attacked the school. I guess assuming he must be a kid because these are all kids that were fighting at the park.
Arcade, and they were fighting at this,
so he goes
playground.
back to the playground that he beat Biz Money at, and Tarmac is just destroying all the stuff out there and fighting him. And Static, it does a really good job of like fighting him off. Surprisingly, I was like, how it's tar.
Yeah. How
does electricity defeat tar? But he does some interesting things. There's a couple things I was like, I don't know how that worked, but he could throw big chunks of metal and stuff, which makes sense. But there's one thing that Tarmac wraps himself around Static like a boulder or whatever.
Yeah.
And Static's like, "Whoa, it's really hot in here," and then Static, I guess, can like use the plate that he was on that he got wrapped in with to lift them both up and then like throw him down from really high up. So he lifts the boulder up from inside of it and then throws it down or like stops. I don't know if he does it faster.
The magnetic field of the earth. There's
you know how it is.
It's science. We said he's smart. So.
Exactly. So he uses science to defeat Tarmac. And there was some weird. This is a very weird panel, and I don't understand why they did this. There's a panel. The page is normal page of comic, like vertical, one single page. Everything's vertical except the last panel is sideways. I have no fucking idea why they did it like that. It doesn't make sense into the next page.
No.
I assume it was like, we want this exactly like that, and this is the only way to get it, so we're gonna do it like that. I did not like this. I don't know who did the layouts for this, but I did not like that layout. But basically, it's just a random panel of Virgil beating him up as Static, or beating Tarmac up. So I don't know why they did it like that, but it was kind of off-putting when I was trying to read it. Like, what?
Yeah, it was because you literally had to turn your head to read it.
Yeah, it's literally like Alan Moore does weird shit like that in Swamp Thing, where you literally have to turn the whole book around in a circle while you're reading it. But that's the whole page. It's supposed to be like an experience. This was just one panel that was like supposed to be read vertical normally, but they put it sideways. So I was like, okay, that's very odd. But anyway, Tarmac, ends up getting kind of the one up on Virgil because Virgil cares about people. So Tarmac throws a car at a person, and it actually lands on the person. Virgil doesn't save him from getting smashed by the car, which I was like, whoa, that's pretty crazy, because if that was a Spider-Man comic, Spider-Man definitely would have put some web in between and caught it or whatever. In this, the guy's like, holy shit, smash. And then Virgil's like, let me help that off of you, sir.
Get that off of your crushed legs.
And they just drag the man out from, or like, other people drag the man out from underneath the car as Static picks it up. But then he challenges Static like, hey, meet me at this mall at midnight at the parking lot, and that way we can like not hurt people and you can give me your full force or whatever. And so now that that's done, all of the friends go home after school. They're on the train, one of the trains, I don't know. It's kind of like New York. Obviously they kind of base this off New York.
Yeah.
It's one of the subways or whatever. And they're all talking about like who's going to win, because they heard and saw this fight happen between Static and Tarmac, and they heard the challenge. So like, oh, I got my money on Tarmac, like Larry says that, and then Virgil's like, no, I think Static's gonna win because he's Static, of course. So they had this funny little conversation back and forth, and of course, like Frida's like, I don't know, I don't think Static should go at all, at all. Virgil, do you think Static should go?
I really don't think he should go.
Yeah. So like, Virgil's like, no, I'm fine, don't worry about it. Like, I got a brain and a plan, and that guy's just strong and stupid or whatever. Yeah. So, and I do like that, like. Most of the time, he's fine. Like, he does have a brain and a plan, and he doesn't need, like, to really be, like, a lot of times if Spider-Man underestimates an enemy, it's like a bad thing.
Yeah.
But in this, he pretty much wins. Like, it's kind of like different. He gets into different situations because of that, too. It's not like always the same trope of, oh, he underestimated the enemy, and now he's in trouble. It's like he's in trouble for something else because he got deeper into something that he didn't mean to get deep into or whatever. Yeah. But he goes home, and this is where he welds together his like fan hoverboard or whatever, his fan what is that metal thing? His metal fan, metal disc that he can ride on, that he can put in his pocket. And that's part of his plan is like, if I go there and I don't have my, metal disc with me and I can't carry that around, then like I might be out. Yeah, I can't get away. So let me make one I can carry. So he does that, and he shows up at midnight at the parking lot. And Tarmac is like ready for him, like right away. And when he shows up, it's interesting. We see a body fly down that looks like Static, and he's got a coat on, and Tarmac like runs at him and hits him with like a big spike that he kind of makes, like he's like Clayface, where he can like make stuff out of his limbs.
But out of tar.
But out of tar, exactly. He's Tarface, all right? Just like you said, Tarface.
Tarface.
And so, but then when he hits it, it's like doesn't do anything. He's like, oh, what the heck is this? And it was an inflatable clown. He pulled the Macaulay Culkin on him.
Yeah.
A little Home Alone 2 on him. So, then, of course, he's standing in water because the clown was full of water, which was smart of Virgil, so he could electrocute the guy. And then he proceeds to just fucking beat the shit out of Tarmac. He's never in any real trouble here. He eventually, he defeats him with science again, which is he gets what he says. This is like some science. I'm like, I don't know about that, but like he gets Freon, he says, and which is like refrigerant.
Yeah.
And that's cold. And then he also puts dry ice on him and stuff, and that's cold too. So he just cools the asphalt down.
Yeah. So he can't like shapeshift basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it is like Clayface, where like you freeze him or you dry him out, and he can't become different shapes and shit. So he does that, and Tarmac is like stuck in one place in the parking lot. And then Virgil proceeds to get on a steamroller, like a street asphalt steamroller, and rolls over him completely into the parking lot, except his head. He doesn't crush his head, but he like leaves his hand and one of his hands and his head out of the tar. But now Tarmac is part of the pavement of this parking lot, which would be weird and crazy if you're like a security guard there. You're like, what the fuck?
Just his head and arms sticking. What?
I love that this is just there. This like asphalt, roller is just there on site. I don't know if he brought it or whatever, but right when he defeats him, he's like, well, you had enough, buddy? And then some guy comes out of the woodwork, out of the shadows, and it was the man who was talking to Tarmac in the end of the last issue. And he's like, enough. Your business is with me. And then Static's like, holy shit, you're Holocaust. Because he knows who he is, and we don't know who he is, but we would know who he is if we read Blood Syndicate, because he's in Blood Syndicate. It says in the last issue that he was from that comic. He says, yes, your business with my employee is over, and now you have business with me. Yeah. So he's going to hire Static.
And he's cool looking. He kind of has like a Cable-esque, or not Cable, a Bishop-esque design.
He does look kind of like Bishop, but like a little bit more flashy, I would say.
Yeah, maybe Bishop and like Lobo.
Because Bishop is yes, that's true. Bishop has like a very X-Men vibe because he's wearing that like blue and yellow. And
I just meant, well, he's got like the big shoulder pads with all these like buckles on them and like little things hanging.
Yeah, they don't do pouches in the Milestone verse. It's all buckles and vials or whatever. Like
buckles and little containers of something.
Containers.
but he's got these awesome dreads too, and that big like Fu Manchu mustache.
He kind of looks like Craven.
Okay, yeah,
he's got a Craven vibe too. Yeah, I like it. But
this is one of my favorite parts of this comic completely. He's like, the next one starts off and he's like, yeah, we're gonna talk, like it's cool. I don't have any beef with you right now. I just want to talk. And he pulls out. He's like, let's drink up. And he pulls out a malt liquor for him, but he knows Static's a kid, so he gives him a cherry cola,
a pop. So he throws a pop to him. And this is where it says, like, it gives a little what's like a little blurb about, this is how Static got his powers, and then also later they tell you who this guy is and where he's from, and how he's he was part of the Blood Syndicate, and he says, oh, my name's Holocaust, and I dumped the Blood Syndicate, and they were pretty small thinkers, but I have bigger ideas. And then it says a little asterisk from like the editor. It says a subjective view of what happened in Blood Syndicate #2.
Yeah, that's a fun
because he's like,
blurb.
I left them or whatever. So I thought that was funny. So they have like a little talk about, like, he basically convinces Static to work for him and saying like, look, we need to like be proactive, and we need to establish ourselves and kind of be like strong black men, and
and protect the streets.
Yeah, and the community and all that kind of stuff. So he talks Static into helping him, and what the help is they go to, how do you say this name?
Giacomo Cornelius.
Oh God, I feel stupid. Yeah, Giacomo.
it's the big scary Italian boss man.
Yeah. So it's like the mafia.
The mafia kind of
Basically, they run
the crime in this area.
Yeah, they run the crime, specifically the drugs, and into this area, and they're taking advantage of black families and the community.
Yep.
This is what Holocaust is telling Static. I mean, I'm sure a lot of that is true, but it's not just
from a certain point of view.
Yeah, it's not just protecting the community, So they break in, or they try to like, they're just sending a message this time. They don't fully break in this one, but they just kind of let the Goombas come out and shoot at them, and they shoot back, and kind of Static's able to show off like, oh, I can take your guns from you, and he puts the.
Although Holocaust,
I'll say this, Holocaust fucking murders some dogs in this.
Yeah, there's like all these like Dobermans running out, and Holocaust is like, "You're on fire!" Just like there's like they like combust these dogs.
I don't know what his power is, but because his name is Holocaust, I'm assuming it's not good.
It's not good.
It's not like a not mortal wounding that you're gonna get from him. So he murders a couple Dobermans.
He throws these flaming dogs.
Throws the flaming dogs at the Goombas. They're on fire. The dogs are on fire. Everybody's on fire. And then he's like, tell your boss to go fuck himself, basically. And that was just the warm up. They were just teasing what they could actually do to them in like a real fight. So he says, see, next time they'll prepare, and they still won't be shit, and then we'll get respect because they'll be prepared next time. So if we beat them when they're not prepared, we won't get respect. So it's like a weird tit for tat thing or whatever. So it's very interesting. But he's basically like, hey, I need you tomorrow at 9 again for this same thing.
Go home and rest up, and
Yeah. And so when he comes home, he's like, oh, let me go talk to Frida. And so he goes to talk to her about what happened. And he's like, oh, I guess he hears them talking. He hears Frida talking. He's like, oh, I guess she went to go see a movie. And he's on the roof of the house next door. And he looks and he sees Frida kissing Larry.
Ooh.
And he's like, what the fuck, Larry? It's a big problem. I've been there, man. I've been there. Not from a roof, but, when you find out that the girl you like is making out with your best friend or whatever, that's a thing for sure.
Especially the friend that we know definitely has the, like, lesser morals.
Yeah, the friend that was like, hey, go shoot a guy.
Go kill that guy. Then he won't mess with you anymore.
Murder him. And he actually makes that point to Frida. He's like, this guy is like a killer. Like, he was totally told me to go fucking kill a guy. And that's who you go with or whatever? And she's like, he's not that bad. Like,
yeah.
But anyway, he goes down to confront them. He's like, what the fuck is that? And he actually says, this guy, told me to kill someone in cold blood, and you're going out with him? And he actually, I think it's accidentally, because the guy Larry kind of grabs his shoulder, and it ends up looking like or Larry thinks he punched him, but he got shocked by Static because Static's so mad. So he goes home and he's, sleeping, but he can't go to sleep because his mind is racing because all this shit. And then he wakes up in the morning and his mom is like yelling at him. He just hears, Virgil! She's like, what the hell? And his mom bursts into his room with his sister because she found out, of course, the sister told the mom that he lost his job. And she's like, we need that money. And I like this. I thought this was fun. And the sister's like, ha ha, like, you lost your job and now you're in trouble. And then the mom's like, you go down to that fish shack and you apologize to her, to the woman that fired him. And then she's like, I don't know what you're smiling at, to the daughter. And she's like, you got to go with him. You got to get his job because she needs someone to make money. So if he's not going to make money, she's got to make money. So the little sister ends up having to work at the fry shack or whatever. And it was like pretty awesome that happened, I thought. But yeah, that's how they leave that. And then he goes to hang out with all the rest of his friends, like from the same group that knows Frida and Larry. And he's like, man, I just found out there was like a big thing going on with Larry and Frida. And they're like, yeah, we all know. Like, what are you talking about? You didn't know that?
You didn't know that? Yeah.
And he feels super betrayed that all of his friends knew, even though, like, he's been, like with Larry, he was like asking Larry for tips on how to talk to Frida and everything. So it's even more of a betrayal because.
Yeah, maybe the other ones didn't quite know how much that he liked.
Right.
But Larry specifically.
Yes, for sure. So he's in a bad mood, of course, and he's in a bad mood from that. He's like, I got to make money because my mom's fucking struggling, and then my little sister has to get a job. And the mom was like bantering him about like, oh, now you don't get to sleep in because you don't work and all this stuff. So you better be, out either finding money or at school or whatever. So he is like, okay, I'm going to get money, and he's going to get money because he's going to work for Holocaust. So he tells his mom, like, hey, I'm going out. I'm going to get cash. Don't you worry or whatever. And she's like, what the fuck? Because if your kid runs out, like, I'll get money. You're like, where are you going to get money from?
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, and the one panel is good because it's got his eyes all staticky. He looks very charged, very, very much like he's
angry,
got
ready to
angry, go. Twinkle in his eye.
Yeah, you're kind of like, oh, is he like going to kill someone or something? Because he's ready to fight these Italian mob guys. So him and Holocaust meet, and they ride into this is great. They just ride right through the Goombas that are waiting at the gate, and Static takes their guns away, of course. They just drive straight into the dude's house and like, break through the wall. And then Holocaust makes like the floor collapse above them, and the head mafia guy was in that room, and with his whole family too. So like there's a wife and a boy and a daughter, and Holocaust is like, all right, we got to send a message to this mafia guy. If we kill him, someone will just take his place, and then we'll have to do this all over again. We should either kill his wife, his son, or his daughter. And he's like, it's a tough call. Like, I don't know. Who do you think? Should we kill the son or the daughter? And Static can't make a decision because he's not a bad kid. He doesn't want to murder anybody. And so Holocaust kind of just steps in and says, fine, I'll make the decision. And he throws like a chair.
He lights a chair on fire, and it's like, I'll throw it in there, and then whoever dies, dies.
Yeah, let's play chance or whatever, right? So then Static runs and saves the child that was going to get hit because it was going to be the boy that was going to get hit by the chair. And then him and Holocaust have a big talk about, like, what the hell? I thought you were, all about helping the streets and stuff. And don't you want to work for me? And Virgil's like, no, like I can't murder people or whatever. He's like, you're just not a realist, basically. Like he just says, like, if you can't follow orders and show, unity and not ask questions, then I guess you're someone I don't need working for me, and you're no longer worth my time. And so he just lets him go, which is nice of him to do since he's kind of like a bad guy.
A villain, yeah, but he's like, go with what you came with.
Yeah.
Okay.
He just lets him go. And then it says later, Virgil and Larry meet up, and they kind of have a heart-to-heart where Larry basically meets with him to say, like, look, Frida wants to talk to you because she still wants to be friends with you. I don't necessarily like you that much because you fucking hit me or whatever and all that's going on. But, Frida's your friend. You shouldn't cut her out because of what we're doing.
And he did say, like, maybe he went a little too... He was like, maybe I did go a little too hard about maybe giving you the advice to try to kill that guy. Maybe that was a little wrong.
Maybe I was a little off on telling you to murder that guy. Maybe. And but yeah, the issue ends with the phone ringing and Frida talking to Virgil and them having kind of like a nice friendship conversation. So that is how the series ends, or this trade ended. And what'd you think of it, John? What would you give it?
It was fun. I liked the introduction of kind of like you said, like getting kind of like seeing how it happened a little bit, but like not in the traditional sense. I like that we got him right away. I like he named some of his powers. I didn't really mention that before, but I like he's like, this is like the static punch, or like the it was fun. He again, little Spider-Man-esque, but very teen hero-esque.
That actually reminded me of in Fist of North Star, the manga.
Yeah.
He literally has a special name for every move that he does. So he's always like fire, punch, crane, kick, or whatever, and then like and then the guy will explode after he does it. Like
Awesome.
So yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. Or maybe they read that kind of stuff and they were like, we want to add that and incorporate that. Because I'm trying to think, I've never heard like Spider-Man name his moves.
Maybe not as much in some of the comics. I think maybe some of the more kiddie ones.
I haven't read a lot.
And
of it, so.
I mean, in the video games, like there are a lot of them. Like that's
okay.
that's like the
well, that's because it's a video game, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like he'll say them sometimes.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense if it's a video game.
So either way, it felt very like teen superhero-y. Like he's gonna name his moves, and he's quippy.
Yeah.
And like the tarmac fight was really cool. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
It felt very much like in the vein of like him being a real kind of a hero. And I like he was different. I like that like he had a little bit of like temptation of like a darker side that could happen, but he stayed true to being a good person. And then I mean a couple times like almost killing, having a gun in his hand, almost gonna kill a guy, and then working with someone who knew was at one point a pretty big bad guy, but being like, okay, well, he said he turned a page, maybe I can work with him, and then be like, oh no, he still wants to kill people. I'm not a killer. Like he didn't stop him, mind you, and like really fight him. He just left.
Right. Yeah. He probably. You're right. Holocaust probably murdered everybody.
Yeah. But it's still like he's showing that he's a good head on his shoulders, and I mean like everything we've read with Dwayne McDuffie, I really enjoyed, and seeing like the creation of Static basically was really fun. I really enjoyed it, and the art was really cool. The only thing, like you said, was kind of weird was the one random side panel.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whose call that was, but I didn't like it.
But I liked it a lot. I would give it a 7. It was solid.
Yeah, I would give this one a 7 as well. I enjoyed it. It made me want to read more of it.
Oh yeah,
I like the character. I like the way they set up the world and everything. They leave questions, but they're not leaving things unanswered necessarily because they give you enough that you can follow everything, and then you're like, oh, but I have like a question in my mind about how that happened, and then later on they'll address it or whatever. So I liked that, and I liked the character a lot, and the whole like friend dynamic and everything. It felt really true. It was like, oh yeah, I feel like this happens to kids a lot. The whole like this friend is going out with that friend, but I like that friend, and all this kind of like love triangle shit or whatever. So it was super fun, and I highly recommend checking these out, and reading all the Milestone books in general. Oh, yeah. And I'm really glad that they started printing them again. So.
I am too. I want to read more of Hardware too. I thought he was.
Yeah, Hardware, who's like the Iron Man character. We haven't read too much of his stuff, but he's appeared in some of the books that we read.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll do that sometime in the near future because I don't know, maybe next month or something we'll put it in. So as always, folks, it doesn't have to be Black History Month to celebrate Black creators, Black writers, Black characters. So
that's right.
Anyway, next week we are going to read Bitter Root, which is a newer comic. I think it came out this year or last year. I've heard people talking about it, but it's kind of like a supernatural mystery book, I believe, that revolves around a family in I think it's Louisiana or one of those kind of like southern cities.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've just heard good things. I don't really know that much about it other than it's like a supernatural book, but it sounded cool and it's got a lot of fanfare. And so we'll be checking that out next week. And if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, at gmail.com. And don't forget about our coffee support page. We really appreciate everybody who listens and supports us too, just by listening and everything, and being friends on Facebook or liking us and all that. But if you want a little bit more content, you want to get to know us a little bit better, we do have some special content on Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. And that is where you can be a member, where we have Hellblazer Matt's minis up there, and I'm reading that in tandem with Swamp Thing. And we also have just the ability to choose a book for us. So if you join the blue and gold tier, I believe, you can suggest a book to us, and unless it's like something really crazy or weird, we'll probably do it. And this has already happened with one of our dear friends of the podcast, Otaku Mike, who has been on our podcast before, and he suggested that we read Battle Pug, which was a fun read, and we enjoyed that. So that could be you. If you want to be one of those listeners who wants to suggest something specifically that we haven't done yet, then feel free to go on that tier, become a member, and suggest. Also, I think, if you just donate in general, because you can just do a one-time donation, you can suggest something.
We could probably suggest something.
We could probably let you suggest something too.
We got them shout-outs too.
Yes, of course, yeah.
But you just say either way, just don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. We've got our Instagram, our Twitter, and our YouTube for exclusive content. Matt is pumping them out. I have some, I swear to God, they're going to be coming. And but we also have that stuff. If you guys are liking and subscribing and want to help with our coffee, then we are planning on doing some possible watch-alongs and or reactions. That was the one I was looking for.
That's the word.
Anyway, so take a look. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you'd like to see. And on that note, I guess we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.